Good morning. How do we learn to be content in the middle of a crisis? Maybe we need to change jobs. Let me explain what I mean by that. I didn't know what a critic was by profession when I was younger. Had I known that you could make a living being critical of things, I probably should have gone that direction. I think I would have been a natural. The idea of getting paid to find what's wrong with a meal at a restaurant, to critique the service, the idea of getting paid to tell people how a movie might have been better. It is easy for me and maybe for you to find things that are wrong with people. And in doing so, we make them unhappy and we quite often make ourselves unhappy as well. So maybe we need to change jobs. Maybe I should give up my job as a critic and try to find something different to do with that. I think that's a biblical idea. It's part of Paul's plan to find contentment, to rejoice in every circumstance. It's part of his secret that he reveals for us, and it's something that he models for us and that he had learned to do well. If you go to the first of Philippians, chapter 1, and you begin about verse 3, you will see that Paul says, I thank my God for you. Every time I pray for you, I pray with joy. Those are pretty amazing things when you read the rest of the letter and you discover that he's writing to people who were very obviously selfish at times. They are contentious. Some of them are quarreling and fighting. He, in fact, calls out two people by name who need some help to learn to get along. And in the middle of all that, there are some people who are deliberately trying to get Paul killed. And they're all in this church that Paul says, I thank God for you. Paul hadn't always been that way. In fact, he also says in this same letter in chapter 3 that there was a time when he was enthusiastic for persecuting the church, the very people he's now thanking God for. He describes himself as having been a Pharisee of Pharisees, somebody who would have been quick to find fault, somebody who would have enjoyed seeing what was wrong with people and pointing them out. And Paul even seems to have enjoyed persecuting, arresting, and even having Christians killed. So what happened? How did it change for him? Well, obviously, you know about Paul's being struck blind and then given his sight and being able to see the world from a whole new perspective as someone who received grace and forgiveness and mercy from Jesus Christ. Paul now saw people through the eyes of grace. In chapter 1, in verse 7, he says, It is right for me to feel this way about all of you. It's right. Since I have you in my heart, and whether I'm in chains or defending and confirming the gospel, all of you share in God's grace with me. It's right because we all share in grace. God judges us not based on what we deserve, but on what we need and on what's loving. Here's your challenge for you today. It's easy to be critical of political leaders and merchants and a whole host of people in this current situation that we think could be doing it better. Let me encourage you to see those people through the eyes of grace. Cut them some slack, give them some mercy. And here's my challenge for you today. Share in the comments below somebody, not by name, but somebody, some category of people that you are having difficulty thanking God for, that you're having difficulty seeing the good in that person. And then talk about what you do see as good. Quick example. Store clerk the other day, new service, curbside pickup, online ordering, supposedly to cut down the contact and make things safer. But when we get our order, it is brought out to our car for us, but then we had to sign for it and give an ID and wait for that to come back after they made a copy. So there was a lot more contact than I expected. Would have been easy to be critical. To be honest, I probably was a little bit, but if you think about that through grace, this was a young lady who was working. She's doing what she's told. She's doing the best she can. She's providing me with a service and trying to make my life better. I probably ought to thank God for that. Your turn. Go to the comments. Who's it hard to see the good in? And how can you see that if you look through grace? Share that today. I think you'll find you like people more and you enjoy your day more. May God bless us to enjoy His grace and extend it to others.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. I've heard them singing.
He paid the price and Jesus bore it all. I've heard them sing, I'm coming home, and heed the master's call. I've heard them sing the modern songs and songs of long ago. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet is the sound. No sweeter song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know.